Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive that's surprisingly intricate?
Intricate is an understatement.
Today, we're lacing up our curiosity and stepping into the world of a footwear hand sewer.
A profession you might not even realize exists.
But trust us, it's way more fascinating than it sounds.
And to guide us on this journey,
We've got RoleCatcher's in-depth career guide on the subject.
they're like the ultimate resource for uncovering those hidden complexities in jobs we often overlook.
Like, think about it.
When was the last time you really thought about what goes into making a pair of shoes?
And I'm not talking about those mass-produced sneakers.
We're going old school, where craftsmanship and precision reign supreme.
So if you're picturing a quaint little sewing circle, think again.
RoleCatcher paints a very different picture.
This is about serious skill, physical stamina, and a whole lot of patience. And they don't sugarcoat it. It's demanding work.
Right from the get-go, RoleCatcher dives into the nitty-gritty of what these artisans do.
We're not just talking about pushing a needle through fabric here.
It's about understanding the properties of different leathers.
Selecting the right needles, awls, pliers, all these specialized tools.
And those awls, by the way.
RoleCatcher mentions they could be tough on the wrists if you're not careful.
So there's a real physicality to it, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a craft that requires strength and precision.
And then there's the stitching itself.
It's not just about joining pieces together.
Different stitches serve different purposes.
Like a saddle stitch, known for its durability.
Or a blind stitch, where the seam is practically invisible.
It's about understanding how each stitch impacts the shoe's functionality.
And let's not forget the aesthetics.
Exactly. A skilled footwear hand sewer understands that the stitching is as much about form as it is about function.
It's about creating a work of art one stitch at a time.
And that's where the personality of the footwear hand sewer shines through.
What's interesting is how RoleCatcher describes these individuals.
Detail-oriented, passionate about working with their hands.
They even hint at a certain rebellious streak, choosing a path less traveled.
It's not your typical 9 to 5, that's for sure.
And RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from the realities of that choice.
They acknowledge the repetitive nature of some tasks.
The potential for physical strain.
The challenges of finding your place in a world increasingly reliant on mass production.
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Right. But there's an undeniable allure to it.
That feeling of creating something tangible, something lasting.
Something that might even become a family heirloom one day.
RoleCatcher really captures that sense of creative fulfillment.
The mastery of a traditional craft that's becoming increasingly rare.
And they even mention the potential to work with luxury brands, which adds another layer to it.
Imagine handcrafting shoes for some of the biggest names in fashion.
Talk about prestige.
So we're getting a sense of the day-to-day. Physically demanding, incredibly detailed, but also deeply satisfying.
But how does someone even begin this journey?
Well, that's where RoleCatcher's breakdown of career stages comes in.
And it's more structured than you might think. You've got these different levels of expertise, each with its own set of responsibilities.
It's like a ladder, really. You start at the entry level.
Getting your foot in the door, so to speak.
Exactly. This is where you're mastering those foundational skills.
Learning the ropes from more experienced artisans.
It's a lot of assisting, observing, and practicing.
Like an apprenticeship.
Very much so. You're getting comfortable with the tools, the materials, the different grades of leather.
And of course, those all-important stitching techniques.
RoleCatcher even provides examples of what a typical day might look like at this stage.
So give us a glimpse. What's an entry-level footwear hand sewer doing on any given day?
You might be prepping the leather, cutting threads, maybe even doing some basic stitching on practice pieces.
Getting those fingers nimble.
It's all about building that muscle memory, understanding how the leather responds to each stitch.
And I imagine there's a lot of problem solving, even at this stage.
Absolutely. Leather is a natural material, so it's full of inconsistencies.
Each piece is unique.
Exactly. You have to learn to adapt, to adjust your technique based on the characteristics of the leather you're working with.
It's not as simple as following a pattern, is it?
Not at all. There's a real art to it, an intuition that develops over time.
So once you've paid your dues at the entry level, what comes next on this shoemaking ladder?
That'll be the junior footwear hand sewer.
Sounds like a step up.
It is. You're taking on more responsibility, working on more intricate parts of the shoe.
So not just practice pieces anymore.
Right. You might be stitching uppers, attaching soles, maybe even doing some basic pattern cutting.
Pattern cutting, that sounds pretty advanced.
It's a crucial skill, and it's usually entrusted to more experienced artisans.
Because a poorly cut pattern can ruin an entire shoe.
Absolutely. It's all about precision and understanding how the different pieces will come together.
So at the junior level, you're not just stitching, you're starting to make real design decisions.
You're developing your own style, your own approach to the craft.
And of course, honing those problem-solving skills even further.
Because as you can imagine, the challenges become more complex as you move up the ranks.
So what does it take to reach the top of this shoemaking Mount Everest?
Ah, that would be the coveted role of a senior footwear hand sewer.
The maestro of the workshop?
Precisely. This is where you're not just making shoes, you're leading the entire process.
From concept to creation.
You're collaborating directly with designers, interpreting their visions, and ensuring that every stitch meets the highest standards.
Talk about pressure.
But also incredible reward.
To see your work come to life, knowing that you've poured your heart and soul into every detail.
It's a level of craftsmanship that's becoming increasingly rare in today's world.
And speaking of the modern world, RoleCatcher throws a bit of a curveball our way when they start talking about AI.
AI in the world of hand-stitched shoes.
It sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, doesn't it?
You're telling me.
Meh.
But they make a compelling case for how technology can complement rather than replace traditional craftsmanship.
So not AI robots taking over the workshop, but rather...
More like AI as a tool in the artisan's toolkit.
Give us an example. How could AI possibly be used in such a hands-on profession?
Well, imagine AI helping with those repetitive tasks.
Like what?
Things like adjusting patterns for different shoe sizes, or even analyzing foot shapes for a truly bespoke fit.
So the AI takes care of the more technical aspects, freeing up the footwear hand sewer to focus on?
The artistry, the nuances, the details that require a human touch.
That's fascinating. It's not about replacing human skill, but enhancing it.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher takes it a step further, suggesting that AI could even help personalize designs.
Personalized designs? How so?
Imagine inputting someone's style preferences, maybe even their social media feeds, and the AI generates design options tailored to their individual taste.
Wow, talk about bespoke. But let's be real, no matter how advanced AI gets, nothing can truly replace
the skill, the intuition, the artistry of a human hand.
There's a reason why handmade still holds so much value in today's world.
It's about the story, the legacy, the connection to tradition that mass-produced goods simply can't replicate.
And that brings us to the question of how one actually breaks into this seemingly exclusive world of footwear hand sewing.
RoleCatcher provides some surprisingly practical advice on that front.
And I'm guessing it's not as simple as just having nimble fingers.
Not quite. It takes dedication, passion, and a willingness to learn from the ground up.
So where does one even begin?
RoleCatcher highlights apprenticeships as a traditional but still highly effective entry point.
Finding a master craftsperson willing to take you under their wing.
It's about learning by doing, absorbing the knowledge and techniques that have been passed down through generations.
Like a secret society of shoemakers. But what about those who don't have access to a traditional apprenticeship?
RoleCatcher offers alternatives. They suggest even working in a footwear factory, even if it's not handcrafting, can provide valuable exposure to the industry.
So soaking up knowledge wherever you can find it.
Exactly. And they also emphasize the importance of personal projects, practicing those stitching techniques, experimenting with different leathers, even just taking apart old shoes to understand their construction.
So you're saying that even tinkering around at home can be beneficial?
Absolutely. It's about building that foundation of skill, developing your own style, and showing potential employers that you're serious about the craft.
It sounds like passion is a major prerequisite for this line of work.
Passion is essential, and RoleCatcher provides real-world examples to illustrate this. One profile mentions a footwear hand sewer who started by collecting discarded shoe lasts from local cobblers.
Shoe lasts.
They're the foot-shaped forms used to shape the shoes.
Ah, I see.
This individual used those discarded lasts to practice their stitching, to experiment with different techniques, essentially building their skills from the ground up.
Now, that's dedication. And it speaks to the self-motivation required to succeed in this field.
It's not a 9-to-5 job, that's for sure. It's about constantly pushing yourself, honing your craft, and never losing that passion for creating something truly exceptional.
And that passion translates into tangible qualities that employers look for, right?
Precisely. RoleCatcher specifically mentions problem-solving skills as being highly valued.
Which makes sense. When you're working with your hands, with natural materials, things don't always go according to plan.
You need to be able to think on your feet, to adapt to unexpected challenges, to find creative solutions.
So problem-solving is a must-have. What other qualities do employers seek in a footwear hand sewer?
You might be surprised to hear that communication skills are also crucial.
Communication. In a field that seems so solitary and hands-on.
It might seem counterintuitive, but effective communication is essential, especially as you progress to more senior roles.
Explain that. How does communication come into play in the world of footwear hand sewing?
Well, for starters, you're often collaborating with designers, interpreting their visions, and translating those ideas into tangible forms.
So you need to be able to understand their language, their aesthetic sensibilities?
Exactly. And you need to be able to communicate your own ideas clearly, to explain your techniques, to provide feedback on designs.
It's a two-way street.
Precisely. And then there's the communication that happens within the workshop itself, whether you're training new apprentices, collaborating with colleagues, or simply explaining a technical detail.
So it's not just about being a skilled crafts person, it's about being a skilled communicator as well.
Absolutely. And in a world where craftsmanship is becoming increasingly valued, the ability to articulate your process, your passion, and the value of what you do is more important than ever.
So it's not just about the hands, it's about finding the words to express the artistry behind the craft.
It's about bridging that gap between creativity and communication.
And I imagine that becomes even more crucial as you climb the ranks, taking on leadership roles, mentoring others.
Absolutely. A senior footwear hand sewer needs to be a skilled communicator as much as a skilled artisan.
It's like they say, you have to be twice as good to get half as far.
But those who do make it, they're rewarded in ways that go beyond just a paycheck.
We've talked about the creative satisfaction, the mastery of a rare skill.
But there's also a sense of legacy, of carrying on a tradition that's been around for centuries.
In a world that's becoming increasingly disposable, there's something really powerful about that.
It's about creating something built to last, something that tells a story.
And the footwear hand sewer, they become more than just a craftsperson.
They become a storyteller, a historian, a keeper of tradition.
And that's what's so captivating about this deep dive.
It's not just about shoes, it's about the human element.
The dedication, the artistry, the sheer skill that goes into making something truly exceptional.
It makes you appreciate the craft in a whole new way.
It really does. And who knows, maybe someone listening right now will be inspired to pick up a needle and thread.
To explore their own creativity, to discover the magic of making something with their own two hands.
Well said. And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of footwear hand sewing.
It's been a pleasure unraveling the intricacies of this fascinating profession with you.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hands busy.